good, everyone? Welcome to KGW's 3-on-3 Blazers. My name is Orlando Sanchez. Jared Cowley on my right, Nate Hanson on my left, Max Barr on the ones and twos. Fresh off the All-Star break, guys. Got to say the highlight of the week for me was having a llama in the newsroom.
Yeah, I wish we could have Caesar on the podcast. Unfortunately, it's not good podcast listening.
Yeah, Caesar might be booked up as well. But
dude, Caesar would have some hot takes, man. He seems like a no-nonsense type llama, despite being the no-drama llama.
So shout out to Cassidy Quinn for getting the llama in the studio.
We needed that during the All-Star break. No, we didn't have any Blazers to pay attention to, anything really to keep up on, and so it was nice to have a little break and get to hug. Jared didn't get to hug the llama.
I didn't, but I got to live vicariously through Maggie Vespa's incredible tweet thread, which was just pictures of llamas, and it was wonderful.
So shout out to Cassidy Quinn for making that magic happen in the newsroom. Damian Lillard, though, he got it going. That was fun to watch happen at the All-Star game. He could have done without making one of those three-pointers so that my prediction would have been exact. But, I mean, that was fun to watch.
I wanted him to make two more so he'd break Clyde Drexler's record.
I saw you tweet that out, man. I was like, okay, now we got something else to chase.
Yeah.
I mean, Team LeBron, come back again.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah, Lillard played really well, and I thought it was cool that he played down the stretch in the last
a
few minutes of the game with the starters minus Kawhi Leonard. Good stuff.
Says a lot to get the on-court post-game interview, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can go with LeBron. You can go with anybody else.
What did LeBron play Lillard at the end because he wants Lillard to be on the Lakers in one of these upcoming off seasons? He's just playing it good, man.
Yeah, recruiting never stops, man.
That's a solid conspiracy theory
right there.
All right, guys. So now it's the post All-Star break and back to work. I think I saw C.J. McCollum was out on the beach feeding pigs. It was crazy. These guys got a little bit of a break away from the court for the most part. You guys ready for this? Excited about what's ahead for the Blazers?
Oh, I'm ready.
This is where it gets real, man. This is crunch time.
Yep.
All right, so we have 3 questions. There's 3 of us, so there's 3 answers. You can catch those on KGW.com. So let's get right into it. During a recent interview with Yahoo Sports' Chris Haynes, Damian Lillard talked about the importance of, quote, not selling out for a championship. Is his declaration of loyalty any different than those given by countless other players? Jared, you gave the example of LaMarcus Aldridge.
Still bitter, Jared?
Yeah, a little bit.
Who later changed his mind. Your guys' thoughts. Who wants to take this first?
I can take it on first. Just a complete sidebar here for a second. Do you think LaMarcus Aldridge regrets at this point in time that he left Portland?
100% yes.
I'm with you on that. I think he does regret leaving. If he could go back in time, I think he would stay in Portland and team up with Dame and just see what else could come, what else he could put together with that team.
Man, he's like the ex-girlfriend right there.
He is.
Mistakes were made.
Absolutely. But now let's get to the real question. Is Damian Lillard more loyal than other star players like LaMarcus Aldridge? And this is a tough question because none of us are Damian Lillard, and none of us were LaMarcus Aldridge or any of these other players. I will say this. I think he is more committed to Portland and the community and building something here than other star players in the past have been. However, with that said, he does want to win a championship. He's never sugarcoated that. His goal in his NBA career is to win a championship. That would be the highlight of his career. And so, if in 2 seasons the front office hasn't built a team that's in position to compete for an NBA championship, I wouldn't be surprised if he left. And that's not a shot at him at all. And I think he's going to give the front office all the chances in the world before the end of his contract in 2021 to try to put a team together around him that can potentially win a championship here in Rip City. But if in 2 years we're still sitting in the same question of can the Blazers be a second-round team, and we're still stuck at where they are right now, I don't think any logical Blazers fan at that point would then even blame him for leaving. And I think what he said has also been a little misrepresented.
Yeah.
The Blazers took hold of it on social media and other outlets, ESPN, whatever, saying he's never going to leave Portland. He didn't say that. He just said he's not willing to throw his teammates under the bus, sacrifice those relationships, and he's kind of said that before. He said it to Jason Quick about a month ago when he said, it's not my job to be GM. That's Neil Olshey's job, essentially is what he said. So he's not willing to sacrifice relationships with players to win a championship, but it doesn't mean he didn't say, I'm never leaving Portland, this is my home for the rest of my NBA career. And like I said, if in 2 years the Blazers are in the same situation they're in now and he decided to leave, I don't think any logical Blazers fan could blame him.
Yeah, I completely agree. You're right from the Chris Haynes interview, and if you haven't listened to it or watched it on YouTube, it's a really good interview. It's about almost an hour long, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. And the headlines that came out of it was this stuff that Damian Lillard said about not wanting to sell out, talked about his relationships with his teammates, which I think was nice. And I do think Lillard is more loyal than your typical NBA superstar. And it's not just because of the things he's said about Portland, because every star says something along those lines about the team they play for at the time. But if you look at Lillard and his history, and a little bit of a hat tip here too, Mike Richmond, who is now the host of the Locked On Blazers podcast, he talked about how when Lillard was growing up, he played for an AAU team that wasn't, the sexy AAU team in the Bay Area. And then when other better AAU teams came calling, he stuck with the team he was on because he was loyal to them. When he committed to Weber State was the first school to offer him a full-ride scholarship. And when other Pac-12 teams, including Washington State, came after him hard after that, he was like, I'm sticking with Weber State.
Well, that decision may have been a wrong one on his part. When Washington State comes a knocking, powerhouse program there.
He turned out just fine at Weber State. And now I think we see the same thing. Portland believed in him. They picked him with the 6th pick. They offered him a max contract. And so I do think that loyalty is not just like one of his character traits, it's part of his brand. Yeah. So I do think that he definitely is more loyal than most NBA superstars. Aside from what he said about not wanting to sell out, something else he told Haynes that resonated more with me is when he was talking about kind of recognizing and appreciating the role and the leadership role and what he means to Portland. He said, you can go somewhere else, and because Chris Haynes asked him, why haven't you ever requested a trade to go somewhere else to leave Portland? And one of the things he said is, you can go somewhere else and you're not guaranteed to win a championship. And he's totally right. And I think it's interesting that he looks at it from that perspective, that for him it's not necessarily that the grass is always greener. I think if you look at all the star players or superstar players who have orchestrated a trade away from their original team or left in free agency, only one of those players has gone on to win a championship, and it was Kevin Durant, who joined a team that already had a championship roster. Yeah. I mean, you look at LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul George, Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Jimmy Butler. Some of those players, like Kyrie Irving in particular, weren't necessarily going to have a better chance at a championship, but most of them were, and they have 0 championships between them. So I think that Lillard understands what he has here in Portland, and it has value for him. And I think that if the Blazers can get the roster to a point where it can at least conceivably compete for a championship, I don't see him ever leaving Portland, but I agree with you 100%. 2 years from now, if they still haven't gotten out of the first round, I don't think there's any chance he sticks around. And I don't think even irrational Blazers fans would blame him.
I don't know,
it
man.
It makes complete sense.
Sometimes you get on Twitter and there's just...
It's messy out there.
The Earth's still flat there.
Yeah, but and so for me, that's why it's nice that Neil Olshey seemingly did something different at this trade deadline than he's done the past couple seasons, and he made moves to improve the talent on this roster. And we'll see what happens, but I think that, Damian Lillard's here unless 2 or 3 years from now it's still the same story in Portland.
I'm not going to use up a lot of time on this because I agree wholeheartedly with everything you guys are saying. Dame is a loyal dude, and it's not like he was forced to say this.
No.
Like, this is something that I feel like he's being 100% real, and at the same time, when 2 years rolls around, that's really the question.
Yeah.
Has Portland done enough to keep him?
Yeah. And that's not Dame's fault if they haven't.
No.
That's...
I'm not going to be mad at that if Dame, 2 years from now, Dame says, I'm leaving.
Yeah, if he decided to leave, that wouldn't be disloyal.
No, not at all.
He'd have shown years and years of loyalty to Portland.
And you mentioned loyalty. The other thing, too, is part of me feels like Dame feels like he built this.
Yeah.
Like this is like his kid. Portland, the Trailblazers. This is his baby that he's built up.
I mean, he's talked about wanting to be the greatest Blazer ever, you know. And
so did LaMarcus Aldridge.
I know, but I think it's a little different though with Dame, because
which is
LaMarcus Aldridge was
right?
a great player, but there's a different dynamic and relationship between LaMarcus Aldridge and the community and Damian Lillard and the community. The community has embraced Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard has also embraced Portland as well, not just as a place to play basketball, but as a city.
Yep.
And so there's a different dynamic going on there, and Orlando's right.
It feels like he loves this place, like truly. And first, just talking to Dame, the amount of times we have in press conferences, and even when I first got here, was able to do a one-on-one with him, and he just feels like a genuine person that's not talking just to talk. When you ask him a question, it seems like he's listening, he's being thoughtful, and then comes up with a real answer for the most part. And I can't recall a time where I felt like, oh, he's hiding something, or I feel like he's lying.
Yeah.
Whereas you get that with other people that you're asking questions about. And I've never got that with him. So, I mean, at face value and what it is, I take it for what it is, and that's that he wants to be here. The other part of the Chris Haynes interview that I really liked that came to mind, that was totally off the beaten path a little bit, but was the fact that he got to record some music.
His first album.
Yeah, his first album. In the owner's studio, which is pretty dope. Like, that's something I would have never thought. And so when I heard that, that's what I was more interested in, because a lot of this stuff we've heard in another fashion or another way. But to say Paul Allen was like, "I got you, come record in my studio," and for Dame to be like, "This is the best studio I've ever recorded in to this day."
And I think,
pretty cool.
I mean, given if Dame leaves, it will probably be because of front office failures in building a team, but it won't be from front office failures of treating him like the star franchise player. You know, Dame has treated Portland well, but the Trailblazers organization has also treated him very well throughout his entire career.
And the fans have treated him very well also.
For the sake of Rip City, let's hope we're not having this conversation in 2 years from now.
One last point. Back to Aldridge.
Yeah.
I wonder if Aldridge will kind of serve as a cautionary tale for Lillard as he's weighing this. If it does come down to, you know, should I leave or should I stay?
Why not?
Aldridge left, and he watched Aldridge leave. And then a year later, Lillard took a phone call from LaMarcus Aldridge saying, "Get me back to Portland." So, I mean, I think he's seen, and I think that you could make the case that Aldridge has shown some signs of regret for leaving Portland. And maybe that will also weigh on Lillard.
You put it best, man. The grass isn't always greener. All right, question number 2. Past 3 seasons, the Blazers have played their best basketball after the All-Star break. Do you see another post-All-Star surge for the team this season?
I'll go.
Go, Jared. Jared gave me a little bit. Jared gave me a little bit of a tip on where he's going with this, so I want to actually hear it out.
All right, so the tip that I gave you was a little bit more about question 3. But it kind of starts with this question. I think so. And I was surprised because as I was doing my research and writing out my answers for this podcast, I didn't go into it quite as optimistic as I came out of it.
Yeah.
And it really surprised me because you look at, there's a lot kind of going against the Blazers right now. 16 of their last 25 are on the road. They're not a good road team at this point. And they have to implement 2 new, talented, heavy rotation players. And you're going to have players who are going to fall out of the rotation that could create tension in the locker room. I absolutely could see the scenario where all this kind of goes wrong and the season doesn't finish on a strong note. But for me, what weighs heavier than that in my mind is 1, history, and 2, the leadership of Damian Lillard and Terry Stotts, which has been there all along. You know, the past 3 seasons, they finished after the All-Star break. Last season, they were 17-7.
Yep.
The year before that, 18-8.
Yep.
The year before that, 17-11. Over the past 3 seasons, post All-Star break, they're 52-26.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty good. And I did the math. If you take that percentage and apply it to the last 25 games of the regular season, this season, it's 51 wins. I'm not saying I'm calling them to win 51 games. I just found that interesting. But what is consistent over all of those 3 seasons is the leadership of Damian Lillard and the leadership of Terry Stotts. And so I think the things we're concerned about, the road, the rotation, implementing new players, I feel less concerned about those things because of those 2 figures at the head of the Blazers. I think Cantor and Hood are both, we've already seen it from Hood. I think he's fit in very well and is showing even better than most people thought probably. And I think that Cantor is also, he's just kind of a go get offensive rebounds, go get rebounds, go score in the post. He's not like a high, a high maintenance player who's going to need a lot of plays run for him or anything like that. And he can kind of play the exact same role that Yusuf Nurkic plays when Nurkic is on the bench. Yeah. So I see both of them thriving in Stott's system. And I don't think Dame will let the locker room get away.
Yeah.
He never has. I mean, he rules this team with such great leadership. I think that the players who might lose minutes, definitely Myers Leonard, maybe Mo Harkless, maybe,
Zach Collins.
Yeah, maybe Zach Collins, maybe Seth Curry. Most of those players have a long, except for maybe Seth Curry, but most of those players have a long relationship with Damian Lillard. They trust him, and there's no way they would challenge him. That's just not something they do in the locker room. So I believe all those things are not as big a concern as they might otherwise be. As for the road, that is a concern because they're 10 and 15 on the road, but this is also, with the addition of Enes Kanter and with the addition of Rodney Hood and the emergence of Jake Layman, this is the most talented team the Blazers have had, and I think the best team they've had since LaMarcus Aldridge left. And I think this team, think about when the Blazers have been at their best this season. It's when the bench has excelled.
Yeah.
And I think this team is now structured to where that bench can be consistent every night. You're not going to have some nights where they're scoring 50-something points and other nights where they put up 18. Yep. I think you're going to have consistent output from the bench, and I think this team is going to figure things out on the road and finish, again, with a post-All-Star surge. I think that's going to happen.
Man, Jared, a lot of what you said is actually exactly what I said.
Nice.
Believe it or not.
Oh, that means we're all getting along today.
Oh, no way. I told Jared, when Jared gave me that tip that he was probably going to go this direction, I thought for sure you were going to bring us down. No, because, my gut instinct when we were talking about questions for this week, and we all knew this was probably going to be a question, my gut instinct, of course, was no.
And that's interesting that it was that way for both of us.
Yeah.
Going into doing our research for this question.
So maybe there were just 100% Blazers apologists, and our gut instinct is right, and
I think the word is homers.
And we just talked ourselves into thinking this is going to be better than what it's actually going to be. But I feel the same way that I'm not going to go as far as to say as they're poised for a surge. Because to me, if they finish this stretch 13 and 12, to me, that's better than what my gut tells me they'll do.
Yeah.
Just because they have 16 road games out of 25. That means they only get 9 at home. And so if they go 13 and 12 the rest of the way, I would consider that a success. To me, just staying afloat and staying in the hunt for the number 4 seed is somewhat of a success this team. So I'm not going to go out and say they're poised for a second half surge, because to me that rings the 18 and 8, 17 and 7 records you talked about last year. I'm not going to be that confident, but I think they are going to be better on the road than they've been so far this season, for a couple of reasons. I think that they've heard now for the better part of a month, since the road concerns have gotten greater and greater, this is a team that can't win on the road, when they haven't necessarily been this bad on the road in the past with a lot of the same players. And this is a team that typically does perform well in the second half. So I think they will play better on the road. Like I said, it's just a matter of can they stay afloat. And if they can go 500 on the road here during the second half of the season, that's a big win for this team. And I think that is attainable because this is also a different team than what has played on the road for most of the season so far. Because as we talked about, the additions of Hood and Kanter, and if Jake Layman can be the Jake Layman we saw the month before the All-Star break for the entire post-All-Star break, you talked about bench scoring. With those 3 players, that's what you would expect, a consistent 30 points a night from those 3, if not maybe a little bit more, but 30 is probably a decent bar for them. And then if you get Seth Curry or whoever else adding to the bench scoring, if you're getting 30 to 40 points every night for the bench, this team takes another step they take another step forward as a team. And so for those reasons, I don't think my gut instinct of telling me just because 16 of 25 on the road, they're going to slide. I'm not going to go that far. But I think that they'll be right around 500 the rest of the year, which is better than what I initially expected.
I like that you guys mentioned how bad they've been on the road, because that was kind of one of the first things that came to mind. 10 and 15, that's not good. But I also thought, just like you did, this is probably the floor
Yeah.
This is probably as bad as it gets for them on the road. So I like their chances. And I think you mentioned the 50-point mark, or 51 win mark. If they go 13-12, that's 47 wins.
Yeah.
That likely gets them right in that home court advantage conversation, right?
At
For the Western Conference.
It'd be challenging.
They're in the mix, right?
Yeah.
I think they'd have to get to 50 wins to kind of secure that.
Looking at the schedule late in March, there is a span of bad teams. There's an 8-game span there where only one team has a winning record, and it's Brooklyn, who's 30-29 right now. So there are some winnable games that are bunched up on the road and or at home that I think they're going to take advantage of. And one of the trends that they've had this season is beating bad teams or beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. Really, our criticism of them when it comes to this topic is what playoff teams can they beat?
Yeah,
especially on the road. I mean, they generally beat playoff teams at home. I mean, they're a very good home team. It's been the road games.
And so I'm with you, Nate, where I don't think this categorizes as a surge.
Yeah.
You know, that 13-game win streak, or where they're 10 games below 500 and they finished the season 41-41. I don't think it's anything like that. But if they go 13-12, check, that's a win for me.
I'm in the same boat
I would say that was a successful end of the year run that they went on if they end with a winning record.
And considering all the dynamics, I mean, just because they have these additional players doesn't mean they're all going to fit immediately together. Terry Stotts still has to figure out what rotation is going to work best for this team. But that's how much respect I give Terry Stotts too. Is I think he'll figure this out pretty quickly.
And this has been one of those constants. A consistent thing, a trend that happens with this team every year.
What they do.
And so until they do something different, like we've had with multiple other topics, I'm staying pat with this is who they are. This is part of their identity. And I remember us having a conversation, Jared, and I wanted you to bring this up because we talked about the rotation and how these guys are all going to fit in, but there's been one player that hasn't been quite as good on the road versus at home.
It's Damian Lillard. If you look at Damian Lillard's splits, his production has not been nearly as good on the road as it has been at home. And you know what else we haven't seen from Damian Lillard this season? He's been really good, really consistent, but we haven't seen
what he did.
Not just last season, but he's had one of these stretches every season since LaMarcus Aldridge left, where he has carried the team. And I don't know if he necessarily needs to carry the team like he has in years past because they're more talented, but I could see him also going on his own little post-All-Star game surge.
All right, guys. Time for number 3. It's prediction time.
Whoa, this again.
Yeah.
Do you remember where we stand at this point, Jared? Are we all tied?
All 3 of us are at 30-26, because I didn't count our picks from last week because it was just fun All-Star picks. Yep.
That's incredible.
Different roads to get there.
Yep. And speaking of the road, that's where the Blazers are for their next 7. Until we meet again, though, they've got 4. Tonight they're at the Nets. They're 30-29 on the season. Saturday at the 76ers, 37-21. Monday at the Cavs, who are 12-46, and then on Wednesday at the Celtics, they're 37-21 right now. So, which games do the Blazers win, and which games do the Blazers lose?
I'll start off with this, I guess. I'm going to say the Blazers go 2-2 in this 4-game stretch, and keeps with my theme of just kind of staying afloat.
It's a nice safe pick.
Yeah.
And so the reason, initially, when I looked at this, my initial thought was to pick Brooklyn to win tonight against Portland. But then and this could again be Homerism coming in here, but I just thought to myself, all the Blazers have heard now for a week is how they can't win on the road. And I think they're going to really come out ready to play tonight and ready to prove that narrative wrong. And so I think they play well, and I think they beat Brooklyn tonight. The Philly and Boston games, I'm not that gung-ho about the Blazers to pick them to beat Philly and Boston on the road. But then the other matchup is Cleveland, and I don't think there's any argument anyone could ever make that would make me pick Cleveland over Portland. I dare either of you two to try.
That would be
see
the
what
worst
you're doing
loss
there.
of the season by far, man.
So I'll go 2-2.
I'm going to go last.
Okay.
Oh, he's got something.
Yours has to be more interesting than mine because I also went with the safe pick.
Oh.
And I was like, let's go 2-2. Let's play it safe. The only game I truly feel confident about is the one you mentioned against the Cavs. The other 3, I could see them going any which direction. The 76ers was intriguing to me because there's no Joel Embiid. But that game is an early game. It's a weird game. So I still think the 76ers are really good, and the Blazers haven't been very good on the road. So, and I battled with the Nets game as well.
Wow.
But they're going 2-2. They'll beat the Nets. They'll beat the Cavs. They'll lose the other two.
Here we go. I want to hear 4-0, Jared.
Yeah,
give
please.
it to us. 4-0.
Please give us something.
So when I first started,
Give the people what they
I
want.
was like 3-1. They're going to win one
That's
of
where
these.
he started.
Oh,
They're
no.
going to
This
win
is
one of
going
these
good.
two
This is
that are against tough. But no, Blazers are going 4-0.
Oh, baby, he's doing it.
That's what we came here
All right,
for.
hear me out.
That's
Hear me
what
out.
we came here for.
Because this, I only got to this after a lot of research.
That's the only way you could get to this.
I know. I was not. I was much less optimistic when I started. Let's talk about the road trip first. This is a challenging road trip.
Yes.
There's no doubt.
At
But
least they don't have back-to-backs.
it's not as bad as it could be. It could be a lot worse. First of all, they're already rested. Okay, not only are they coming off a week-long All-Star break, but they played 5 games in the past 26 days.
Yeah.
This is a rested team. Most of the team has already been on the East Coast for days. So they're not having to acclimate to the travel at this point. There are no back-to-back games, like you said. There's no cross-country travel. All these games are
Regional.
very close to each other. There's no flight. None of the flights they go on is longer than 2 hours.
Did you Google flight all those?
I did.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
Wow, this is heavy.
Oh
I
man.
did. Okay, so I think that they have a chance to make a good road trip out of this 7-game behemoth. You know, it seems like very tough, but some things might go their way. So first, Brooklyn. Brooklyn lost 6 of 9 before the All-Star break, including blowouts at home against the Bucks, that's fine, and the Bulls, which is not as fine. So it's not like they're really surging or playing great basketball right now. So I'm going to pick them to beat the Nets. Let's go to the Cavs, even though it's out of order. Cavs have 12 wins. They've lost 23 of 27. They're terrible. Blazers should win that game. I have them beating Philadelphia, and the reason I do, and I wouldn't have picked it this way if it wasn't this way, but Embiid is not playing. Mm-hmm. And the 76ers without Embiid have been terrible this season. He's in 4 games that he hasn't played, they're 1-3. Do you know what their net rating is with him on the court? It's plus 8.2. When he's not on the court, it's negative 4.3. And do you guys remember what happened on December 30th?
He didn't play.
He didn't play, and the Blazers won by 34 points.
I also remember Tobias Harris was not on the team.
That
and it
guy's
was
pretty
in
good,
Portland.
isn't he?
Yeah, I like Tobias Harris, but still, he's a good player. But I'm picking him to beat the 76ers.
Okay.
Now, as for the Celtics, this was I didn't think it was that much of a stretch to pick them to beat the Sixers.
Wow.
But I think
No.
I think the Celtics is my risky pick.
Yes.
Oh man.
But here's what it is. It's a second game of a road-to-home back-to-back for the Celtics. The night before, they play the Toronto Raptors on the road on national TV. That is a tough turnaround and might give Portland a chance. So I went with it. I picked Portland 4-0.
I'm actually gonna say for me, I would have considered Portland beating Boston, even without Embiid, more than Portland beating Philadelphia.
Really?
Just because I don't think Boston can really outscore you. And
Yeah.
so for that reason, I think
Yeah.
Portland can always stay in the game with them. But I love the 4-0.
Yeah, so do
I
I.
love
So do I.
it. Way to pick up the interval.
I did.
on
I
that
tried.
one. What
I tried
a great
to back
way
it
to
up
finish.
because that it surprised me.
What a great way to finish.
We appreciate you
Thanks,
here on the
man.
podcast.
All right, now get us to the main feature.
Yeah,
that was a
the main
nice.
event.
That was a nice little appetizer.
Guys, it's about that time. This is the best podcast game this podcast has ever seen. Did you know
Without
that?
a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Wow, the best
time for
podcast
Rip It.
game. This podcast.
We're about ready to turn the time over to the host of Rip It, Max Barr. Max Barr is the Larry Bird
Oh.
of the 3-on-3
yeah,
Blazers
wow.
podcast.
Wow.
Is that 'cause
Why
he's tall?
Larry Bird?
He's got a nice shot,
sure. It's time for story time, guys.
Oh, sorry.
So, did you know Larry Bird once said that he really liked to tell guys he was going to shoot it in their face, and then he'd shoot it in their face and he'd make it?
Without a doubt.
He said he loved to do that.
Terry Porter told me he did that to him.
That's
as a
awesome.
rookie. Yep.
I think he did it to lots of
Yep.
people.
Right in his face.
So, former Sonic star Xavier McDaniel.
Yeah.
Do you say Xavier or Xavier?
Xavier.
All right, I'm going to go with
X.
that.
Yeah.
So, former Sonic star Xavier McDaniel, he actually told this story. Late in a game between the Celtics and the Sonics, and Boston calls a timeout. The coach of the Celtics at the time, Casey Jones, he said he called a play for Dennis Johnson in the huddle, but Bird wouldn't hear it. Bird says to Jones, "No, coach, just give me the ball and tell everyone to get out of the way."
That's right.
So then the Celtics break the huddle, and McDaniel says, Bird walks right up to him and says, "Xavier, I'm getting the ball, and I'm going to shoot it right here," and he points to a spot on the court, "in your face, and win this game." then when the play happened, McDaniel, and he was laughing as he told this part, he said Bird got the ball, and he shot it in the exact same spot he pointed to earlier, and he made it, and he won the game. McDaniel said he walked off the court and just said, damn! So I don't think Max is quite the trash talker that Larry Bird is. I mean, I don't know. For all I know, mild-mannered Max turns into super smack talker Max on the court. But, like Larry Bird, Max does not mess around.
You know what we do?
What?
We give him the ball and we get out of the way.
That is true.
That's
very good.
Max has been on commercials promoting 3-on-3 tournaments with his outside shot. Just
he
saying.
gets buckets.
I've heard he's money.
That's facts.
You know, he keeps us unruly hooligans in line during this podcast.
I try to.
A thankless task.
Yeah.
And he lets us know what's up when we're far too often floundering at this game. Rip It, especially Nate. It's okay, guys. It's time for Rip It. Take it away, Max.
You wrote all of that?
I wrote
There's
all
no way
that.
that came off the cuff.
I wrote all of it.
There's no way you came up with floundering just right off the top of your
That's a
head.
great
That
word.
took some thought process.
I don't know if Rip It is going to be longer than the story.
When do you have time to come up with this?
Like 10 minutes before the
Oh,
podcast.
gosh, man.
Well, I'm honored, guys. It's great to be back with another week of Rip It. And we are coming off a tie between Jared and Nate.
I thought I had
A
it.
hotly
thriller.
contested tie. It was a thriller, for sure. Last week, there were no Blazers games, so it was all about All-Star Weekend. Let's find out how you did.
Oh.
This was not good.
So this wasn't games, it was just All-Star, so even if he wins, it's kind of fake.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
No.
No.
There are no
See-
fake Rip It titles.
Yeah.
So we're started with the Rising Stars game last Friday.
Ooh.
The question was, will the leading scorer in the game come from Team US or Team World?
Oh.
Jared, you said Team World.
Nope.
Orlando, you said Team US.
Oh, gosh.
Nate, you said Team World, but
no.
changed your pick from Team US after you learned Luka Doncic was on Team World.
Yeah.
Man, you messed up.
Go with Doncic.
The leading scorer in the game
Oh,
was Kyle Kuzma
Yes,
of
sure.
Team US. He scored 35 points.
Sorry, man.
Doncic ended up with 13.
well, I wasn't expecting Doncic to be the guy. Just
He was just going to lead.
he was gonna
Someone.
be the reason someone was great that
Right,
night.
yeah.
Much
So-
how I carried you guys.
So Orlando, you're on the board with that one.
Not in this game.
Next question from the three-point contest of All-Star Saturday Night. The question was, which three-point contest participant will score the most total points in the competition? It was between Dame Lillard and Seth Curry. Orlando, you and Jared both said Seth Curry. Nate, you guessed Dame Dalla,
Yeah.
Good call.
who scored one more point than Curry, 17-16. Neither guy advanced to the finals, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Dame won that one.
Never doubt
At the
Dame, my
buzzer,
friends. Never
took
doubt
a-
him.
Yes,
took
they
a review?
reviewed it. They reviewed
Lillard
it.
times, right?
Yeah.
Get that tap on the wrist going.
A one-legged three in the corner.
Yeah.
Won it for you, Nate.
Yeah.
It's good, man.
The
That's
next
how, sometimes that's how you got to win Rip It.
Rip It is
Sometimes.
that tight of a game. Next question from the All-Star game itself was, which team will make more three-pointers, Team LeBron or
gosh.
Team Giannis? Jared, you said Team LeBron.
Yep.
Orlando, you went with Team Giannis. And Nate, you went with Team LeBron.
Of course. The GOAT.
Team LeBron, 35 of 90.
Oh my gosh. 90
93s. Team Giannis, 27 for
Oh,
77.
Giannis.
Yeah, baby.
Hey guys, I just want a little update. Nate has taken the lead.
Oh.
I'm tied with you.
No, I think I only have one.
Yeah, that was his first one.
Oh, that was
I think,
your first
I think
one?
you're up
Yeah.
2-1.
Oh, baby. Now I'm excited. I thought we were hot. Ooh.
Next
This
question.
be-
My voice is
this
getting
the
high. This could be the moment. I didn't even bring party poppers.
Oh.
This could be a pivotal question here. This
All right.
question was also from the All-Star game. It was an over-under. Total points for the MVP.
Oh,
And I put the number at 35
For the MVP, not just any player?
for the MVP
Oh,
of the
I
All-Star game.
Oh.
Did you go over?
Jared, you went under.
Of course I did.
Orlando, you went over. Nate, you said way over. Someone's going to take over. And you were half right, because somebody did take over, and that was Giannis,
Yeah.
who scored 38 points.
That was awesome.
But his team did not win.
I know. I had that question, man.
The MVP, of course, Kevin Durant. He scored 31 points.
That's some weak sauce right
So,
there.
so that one went under.
No wonder people don't like Kevin Durant. It's stuff like that.
My boy Giannis did everything he could to win this.
He did,
know.
yeah.
He was stat hunting from the start.
Oh, without a doubt, man.
And the wild card question of the week
When it comes down to it.
was
I don't even
who
remember what it was.
will win the slam dunk contest.
Oh no! I don't think any of us got
No.
this right.
You all picked different answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jared,
Just the one guy.
Jared, you felt some kind of kinship with your preseason Rookie of the Year from last year. Dennis Smith Jr. Nate, you have a John Collins whose Wright brothers playing dunk was ridiculous
That was
and
terrible.
a waste of time. And Orlando, you reluctantly
I agree
went with
100%.
Miles Bridges of the Hornets. The winner, of course,
None of us
Hamidou
picked.
Diallo, who none of you picked.
Yeah.
So looking at the totals,
And he had the only good dunk of the entire contest.
yeah, the Shaq dunk, that was
Yeah.
pretty good.
yeah,
that
that
was
was
alright.
nice.
Orlando, you had 1 out of 5.
Oh, man.
Nate and Jared tied. Again, 2 out of 5.
Man,
This time he threw the
As
pen.
he
even win a
throws his
fake
pen
with it.
across the room.
He rage quit it again.
But here's the good news.
He
A
even
new-
threw his pin that
The
time.
good news is a
I
new
took it
week
apart and threw it.
starts right now.
Nice.
So here we go. 4 games to talk about this week. We're going to 1 question from each game, and then, of course, the wild card question.
Perfect.
So, Blazers at Nets tonight, Thursday night. The question, which player will make the most 3-pointers? C.J. McCollum, former Blazer Alan Crabb, or 3-point contest champion Joe Harris? And we will start with Nate on this question.
Let's go with the hot hand, Mr. Joe Harris.
All right. Jared, what do you think?
I will also go with Joe Harris.
And Orlando.
Christian James.
Ooh, okay.
Oh.
I'm just going to copy Nate on every question. So
Yeah, so he can't.
Well, Jared, you
I
will go
won't do
first
that.
on this question. Blazers at 76ers. Which player will finish with the most assists? Philly's Jimmy Butler, new 76er Tobias Harris, or Evan Turner? Most assists. These averages per game are all right around the same.
yeah, Turner's minutes have been down. Let's go with Butler.
All right, Orlando?
Gosh. Why are you doing this to me?
Oh, man.
Should I just put it in pen, Evan Turner?
Just
I
pencil me in.
Evan Turner has better offensive threats to pass the ball to now.
Yeah, man. I got to stay consistent.
Yep.
Put me
All right,
down for
Nate.
ET.
I'm going to go with Harris.
Okay.
Jimmy Butler's not passing to anyone.
That might be true.
Without
you
him
might
beat
be-
on the floor, he ain't passing.
You might be right, man.
Next question, Blazers at Cavs. This is an over-under. Total points for Rodney Hood against his former team.
Nice.
And I'm putting the number at 12.5.
Ooh.
Over or under? We will start with Orlando.
I doubted him in his debut. I will not do this again. I'll go over.
All right. He scored 14 in his debut, but he has not hit double figures since.
I
Nate?
did not doubt him in his debut, but I will doubt him this go around.
Okay.
Under.
All right. Jared.
I'll go over.
Okay.
Ooh, this is your chance to
Yep.
steal it.
Rodney Hood, be the man.
I did that just for you.
Blazers at Celtics.
That's what you say now.
The question is, which player will score the most points? Al-Farouq Aminu, Jake Layman, or Boston's Terry Rozier?
Oh.
Nice one.
And I thought it was important, Jared. You brought up it was the second of a back-to-back.
Yeah.
That leaves to me some potential that Irving may not even play in this
Yeah.
game because he's been battling some knee issues. Something to watch
And Rozier's
heading into
pretty
that
good.
game.
What are the? I know they're obviously close by the way you put this together.
Yeah.
But who's the leader in that?
The leader is Aminu at 9.4. Then you have Layman at 8.1, Rozier at 9.1.
Layman like 16 points in February.
Yeah, Layman's been obviously hot. So let's start with Jared on this one.
All right, I'm going to go with Jake Layman. But really quick, what are your nicknames of choice for Jake Layman? Jake the Snake.
That's weak. Can't say that.
Slayman.
Slayman, I like.
That's the one I like.
Jake the Snake, that's been done a million times. And also, I mean, it's not a good thing to be called Snake. Like, just saying, Kevin Durant called CJ a snake. It wasn't a compliment.
That's true. All right, I'm going with Slayman.
Slayman, yeah.
You're going with Slayman
You going
also?
with
No, I'm
Oh,
going with Slayman
no.
as the nickname of
Oh,
those
okay.
two options.
Who are you picking here?
I've got to go different, so I'll take Rozier. Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah, I'll do
Nate?
the same, Rozier.
Okay.
like your guys' pick.
Wild card question of the week. In how many of the Blazers' next 4 games will Enes Kanter score in double figures? We'll start with Nate.
4.
All right, going all 4. Jared?
To be different, I'll say 3, but my first thought was 4.
Orlando?
That leaves me with 2.
You don't have to be different. You going 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta make things interesting next
Yeah,
week.
absolutely.
All right.
Ennis Cantor, do not let me down.
All right, speaking of Ennis Cantor, no, you finished. Sorry.
That's it. That's it for another week of Rip It in the books.
I don't have anything to rip.
Let's bring it home.
We've gone pretty long on this podcast, but I'm going to just leave you with something. As you know, I enjoy playing 2K,
Yes,
and I like simulating seasons.
you've done.
And I want you guys to know that Ennis Cantor, by rating in 2K, is the 4th best player on the Blazers. And that I simulated 2 times the rest of the season and into the playoffs once they had Cantor on the roster and Hood. The first time, the Blazers won 48 games and got out of the first round of the playoffs.
Yep.
And the second time, they won 50 games and got out of the first round of the playoffs. My favorite one was the second sim because they had the 4 seed and they played the Rockets in the 5 seed and they won in 7. So there you go.
What he didn't mention is in one of those,
Yeah,
Cantor got hurt
Oh.
and was out,
Yep.
gone, done.
Yeah, in the first simulation.
And they were still advanced to the second round of the playoffs as a 7 seed, I believe.
Yeah, they upset the Nuggets in the first round.
Well, second round confirmed by the Blazers.
There we go.
Send all of your angry tweets to Jared Cowley on Twitter. He
Happy
will-
tweets.
They're going to be the reason they don't get there.
Except for Jazz fans.
We love 5-star reviews. Please subscribe to the podcast. Thank you, as usual, for joining us. We will see you here next week. See ya.
I'm going to blow my...